It's John Pollock and Jimmy Corderas getting set for the Royal Rumble this Sunday in Orlando, Florida. We're going to be running through the card, getting some thoughts on what is always a show, Jimmy, that lends itself to different scenarios, fantasy booking, and certainly this year, I guess that's always the challenge of the Rumble. You have your destination that should be in place for WrestleMania. You should be able to see the pathway of what they're trying to get to at Mania, or else you have a lot of cold matches to try and set up. So you naturally go into that with the Rumble. I think this year, many people expect that the end game is Roman Reigns and Triple H. How will the Royal Rumble build to that match, and will it be for the title at WrestleMania? I want answers, Jimmy. We don't have to watch the Rumble. We just need your answers.
Okay, here's the deal. Here's what's going to happen. No,
Pat Patterson just called him with the whole rundown.
He went over the whole thing, and I went banana.
Yeah.
But to me, honestly, that's the direction I see it going. And people are going to complain and whine, oh, that's so predictable, Triple H versus Roman Reigns. But you look at all the other options on the table, to me, there are no other options. You need Roman Reigns to face a heel going into WrestleMania, because if he faces someone like a Brock, you're going to get a crowd that's, at best, split, but definitely more pro Brock. So now all that work you've done to make Reigns this huge babyface has been thrown out the window. So that's counterproductive. You look at anybody else on the roster other than Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, who else is worthy of, I hate to use the term worthy, but who else is actually positioned in a spot that can come out of the Royal Rumble with the WWE Championship?
Yeah, I think Brock Lesnar is the key to this match. I think his involvement, the angles, I should say, that they've done on Raw, where each has gotten the better of the other with the F5 and then the spears this past week, it's at least given you a sliver of doubt that, hey, maybe Lesnar comes out of this thing. I don't feel that's the best option to go with. And yes, you're right. If they end up going with the Triple H scenario, he shows up, and whether he eliminates Reigns or outright wins the Rumble, I'm fine with that. I have no problem. I know that there will be, it's so predictable. Hunter comes back and wins the Rumble. You are tone deaf at that point to just ignore the reaction that angle got at TLC, how much Roman Reigns turned the corner from that angle with the audience. You're not hearing those boos every week since that angle was shot. And I feel that it's a hot program. It's what they've been building towards. And Roman Reigns, whether you like it or not, he is your top guy, and he should be in the title match at WrestleMania. And Hunter, to me, is the best option for Roman Reigns. I don't have a better option other than that.
I totally agree. Now the question is, how do you get to that match?
That's interesting, because you do have Fastlane in the middle of that, and you have to fill out that show with something on the line, whether it is establishing the number one contender. Yes. And can put something for Roman Reigns to achieve.
I think we're on the same wavelength here, because I was thinking if Hunter does come out of the Royal Rumble, let's paint this scenario where we have the 30-man Rumble. It comes down to the final two. The final two being Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and they battle it out. The Wyatts get involved, thus, because as we've seen in the past, other participants who have been eliminated from the Rumble have eliminated others from the Rumble, so it's not illegal for someone already eliminated to eliminate someone from the Rumble. It's happened in the past. I mean, Hogan, Sid, we've seen it before. So let's say the Wyatts cost Brock Lesnar, get him eliminated from the Rumble by tossing him out, setting up their WrestleMania program. Reigns seemingly appears to have won the Rumble and retained the championship. Vince's music hits. He comes out, struts out. Hey, listen here, pal. You haven't won the Rumble. There's still one more participant. This year we have 31, and of course the game's music hits. He comes out, and you can either go two ways with this. Either he gets help eliminating Reigns, or Reigns gets eliminated before Hunter gets to the ring. And Hunter, all he does is just step in the ring, and he's declared the winner without breaking a sweat, eliminating anybody, and he's your WWE champion. Would that be enough heat?
Yeah, I think that's certainly a direction you can go. I wouldn't have any issue with that. This past Monday, we also saw the closing angle involving the Wyatt family laying out Brock Lesnar, and that suggests to me that that's the direction for Brock Lesnar. Do you like that way to go with Brock Lesnar for WrestleMania?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Again, looking at all the cards on the table and who potential opponents are for all the top names going into WrestleMania, Bray Wyatt makes absolute sense because leading up to that WrestleMania match between Brock Lesnar and Bray Wyatt, you have 3 other Wyatt family members that Brock can have to deal with on the road to WrestleMania. Of course, the big matchup will be him and Braun Strowman, as Strowman has been programmed to look like a
You'll need all
monster.
3 hours of Raw for that one.
Exactly. But, to me, it makes perfect sense. And maybe this is the year. Maybe, Bray Wyatt's been claiming that he will be the new face of fear. Maybe this happens at WrestleMania. Win over someone like Brock Lesnar, who was the one to end the streak from the original face of fear, The Undertaker. Maybe it's a natural progression.
I feel that it's the biggest thing for me going into WrestleMania is I'm looking at this spring and coming out of WrestleMania where, the heel situation, Jimmy. Yeah, some guys are going to be coming back, but Rollins, you're looking at the summer. Mm-hmm. Randy Orton, whether he comes back as a babyface or a heel, it's going to be, he's not a long-term solution.
Right.
His years on the main roster, they're declining. He doesn't have a ton of them left, probably. Right. So you have to be looking at who are going to be our biggest heels coming out of WrestleMania. And yes, people are going to be upset that, hey, this was the year to do Rock and Brock at WrestleMania, which is a big-time match. We don't even know if the Rock's going to be wrestling at WrestleMania. However, that's a great match for one night, and it'll have a ton of interest. And then coming out of it, then what? Then we're back into the same problem that goes on forever, where we have this big lull because guys on the main roster aren't perceived at the level of the stars that are presented at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. So I like the thinking of we're going to take Brock Lesnar and we're going to try and lift Bray Wyatt up. Mm-hmm. Is Bray Wyatt a top perfect heel at this point? No. He's supposed to be going into this to gain something out of it. And I want to see some chances taken. I want to see Kevin Owens being put into a role where he is bigger the day after WrestleMania than he is the day before WrestleMania. Right. And that's what I think the long-term vision needs to be of guys that are here every week. Let's get them up to a level so it's not the same people we have to rely on every year for WrestleMania, and then they disappear.
Yeah, and in a weird way, it kind of reminds me of the time when, back in the Monday Night War when WCW first started rating all the top talent from the WWF at the time, WWE, and basically WWE had to go into a rebuilding mode to create new stars, hence the creation of Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and the eventual biggest heel ever in the history of the business, Mr. McMahon, after the screw job. So here we have an opportunity at the biggest event of the year, in front of possibly the biggest audience ever to attend a WrestleMania, to create these new stars. And you mentioned, especially on the heel side. The heel side is desperately lacking right now. And Bray Wyatt, I think, is someone who definitely has the ability to be that top heel, and also Kevin Owens.
Yeah, to me, Kevin Owens is there. I can see him as a top heel tomorrow. I think he has the charisma. I think he has the aura, the presentation. In-ring is not a question. I just think he has everything. Bray Wyatt, I see he's much more of a project at this point, but it's not a massive overhaul he needs. I think his promos can be wheeled in and just changed around because I don't think it's connected at a top level. But there's a lot there to work with Bray Wyatt. And he's never been kind of just thrown off and forgotten and being kind of given up on by people. He's always been in that mix, but it's taking that leap into a main event position that hopefully this program can provide for him.
And I think Monday was a huge step forward in that.
Now, we get back to the Royal Rumble. It's also going to feature the last man standing match involving Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens. These two are going to get a lot of time. They're essentially in the co-feature spot, which usually that WWF title match is, but won't be this year. I expect this to go 20, 25 minutes. I think it's a great opportunity for both to have a showcase outing. And with Dean Ambrose, he's someone that not all that different than Bray Wyatt, he's always in that mix, but has somewhat been off to the sidelines over the last 2 months, I'd say, coming out of that Survivor Series tournament.
Right, and we talked about the heel side, and now the babyface side. Roman Reigns has made that progression and has probably solidified himself right now as the top babyface, but there's no one in that number 2 slot right now. Dean Ambrose is there almost by default, so to speak, but he needs to elevate himself, and I think he comes out of the Royal Rumble still with the Intercontinental Championship intact after a grueling match. These guys are going to pull out all the stops. I mean, this may be a little reminiscent of their times. Both men working prior to WWE. They might try to outdo some of the crazy brawling they've done so far leading up to this. But I'm just wondering if maybe it works itself into the storytelling of the later on in the Rumble match, where these guys have such a brutal match that they can't compete in the Rumble match, thus opening the door, maybe 2 spots for some surprises.
Yep, that's an option. I think you could also go the way that Owens wins this hard-fought match and Dean takes a huge beating, and then it's Dean that shows up for the Rumble, but Owens, just playing off of his character, he doesn't come back for the Rumble. He's won his prize for the night, and Ambrose goes down in the Rumble. Here he is beaten down, but he still comes out for the Rumble. I really feel with Dean Ambrose, had it not been a situation where they're so bare on the babyface side, he would have been turned by now.
Oh, yeah.
And when you throw in the likes of Owens, when you throw in Ambrose, I think Alberto Del Rio has benefited a lot from being away from Zeb Coulter and is a very good promo. And then your fourth guy in there you could throw into the mix as well on the heel end. I guess you look at Owens, Ambrose, I'm forgetting somebody at this point, but you have, and Bray Wyatt, who we were just talking about. Those 4, I think with some concentrated emphasis, 6 months from now, that's not a bad heel roster you have there if those 4 are kind of brought up along, but Ambrose might be stuck in this babyface spot for a while. Right. But I could see that changing when Rollins comes back, who I feel should be a babyface when he returns.
Oh, absolutely. He'll get that Triple H MSG reaction when he comes back, most likely.
I hope that's how he is handled. I'm really crossing my fingers that return is treated as a massive deal for him, and he's not just coming back as Stephanie and Hunter's lackey again. I think this is a way to totally hit the reset on him, and he could greatly benefit from what was an awful injury and come back huge. So many options on the table. Yes. It's not as bleak as it's always made out to be, but a lot rests on the direction for these talents.
Right.
Let's chat about the women's title match, Divas title match, involving Charlotte and Becky Lynch. This one quietly has been a very nicely built feud. I think Becky Lynch has been doing her best stuff on the main roster, on promos, in the ring. I'm looking forward to this on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised because when they did the original call-up of the 3 divas from NXT, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch, I was worried that Becky was going to be was going to get Marty Jannetty in this whole thing, so to speak, and be the odd female.
Be fired multiple times and brought back more times.
Maybe not to that extent. Not setting that kind of WWE record, or does Iron Sheik hold that?
It's a close one.
Yeah, there's a
slammy for one of those.
There's a few contenders out there for that, but no, I'm actually I am enjoying it, and what I like about it is the simplicity of the storytelling. It just makes perfect sense. Everything. It's not about, oh, you stole my compact in the locker room. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're wearing the same makeup as me, or you stole my shampoo. It's, you stabbed me in the back. You bitch. I like it, and I like the seed that was planted too, with Ric Flair accepting the challenge for Charlotte and her giving her dad kind of like that little, hey, Dad, what are you doing?
The seed for what? Rick's return to face Charlotte?
No, maybe that she ditches her dad thinking she knows better than him how to be a champion. You know how it is.
See, I like that pairing together, so I'm hoping they don't rush that. I mean, Rick is...
Well, no.
I think they work off each other very well.
Yeah.
I find Rick as just the overprotective father who's just... He's classic Ric Flair. I really enjoy the two, and I think the audience, for so long, it was very tough for Rick to be a heel because everyone loved the guy. And I think at this point, people are getting into this, the unit between the two.
But the seed has been planted.
It has been planted, absolutely. So that's coming up. We've got the Usos challenging the New Day. I don't think we need a title change on this one. Maybe the introduction of a new instrument.
Ooh. Yeah,
maybe a marching band for the New Day.
An entire marching band? Maybe a tuba.
Well, the 3 of them. A tuba, you could go. The clarinet, very underrated instrument.
It's just too... but actually, maybe it would fit the clarinet. It's kind of a whiny kind of an instrument, isn't it not?
I mean, that dance that Kofi does coming down the aisle, I mean, it really lends itself to playing a flute.
Ooh. That's interesting. Or maybe they can get... maybe they could get Kenny G for the weekend and come out with his little sax or something.
Wow. Well, this... what a great hook for our tag title match. I think this is just a match for us. Let's finish up on the U.S. title match. Kalisto is challenging Alberto Del Rio. Now, We talk about building for the future, looking at future talent. I'm not saying Kalisto was going to be your next savior of the company. However, they had something with this guy.
Yes.
And not to say it's completely diminished, but it's been greatly hurt over the last 10 days. I thought the win on Raw, it was somewhat out of left field, and there was no doubt, there was a momentum there. Mm-hmm. They extinguished that fire in record time by SmackDown, the very next episode, dropping it back to Del Rio, and then making him look like nothing on Raw, losing clean to Sheamus in that tag match. And then we get the title match on Sunday. I don't know why Kalisto lost on Raw. I feel he should have beat Sheamus to go into the rematch, and I don't think the title change ever should have happened on SmackDown. Whether he was winning the title, save it for the Rumble, and if Del Rio was going to win it back, give him 2 weeks with the title and then flip it back. I didn't understand this at all, and I think Kalisto he wasn't even given a chance to get over.
No, and here's an opportunity, and you know this, John. The WWE has been looking for a Latin superstar to present to the WWE Universe, a babyface Latin superstar, and I don't want to say that Kalisto was potentially the next Rey Mysterio, because there's only one Rey Mysterio, but he could have been a top tier guy, and with the mask, there's your merchandise hook, the whole bit.
And they did such a great job coming out of that ladder match last month where they replayed that thing over and over.
Exactly.
And we see 1,000,001 stunts every year, Jimmy. Yeah. And most of them are forgotten about the next day because it's such a huge volume. They made sure to replay that so that you didn't forget it. So it was a big moment. And it was building upon something.
And I understand the point of you're trying to tell the story that Big Bad Alberto Del Rio needed the help of Wade Barrett to win back the U.S. Championship, but it didn't translate well. It wasn't like blatant cheating, that heels would do, that a big bully would use on a smaller opponent kind of thing. I think that was the mentality that they were going for. It just didn't translate well. And then on Monday night with Sheamus, again, the heels, who are much bigger and being bullies, didn't cheat to beat this guy. So what have we got to look forward to? And you're right. I like the dynamic. I like the upset win. I thought this was leading to maybe a big-time match at WrestleMania, being in Texas, in Dallas, which is close to there's a large Latino population in Dallas as well. I thought they could have had a nice little stipulation match for the U.S. title, that not only the U.S. title was on the line, maybe it could have been a mask versus hair match.
Sure.
Very reminiscent of what they do in Mexico in Lucha Libre.
Yeah,
the potential was there, and I think you're right, John. I think it was lost in one night.
It just felt like it was poorly thought out in that they went ahead with this title change on Raw, and they go into SmackDown the next night, and it was almost like it was overruled. No, he's losing it back tonight. Yeah. That everyone wasn't on the same page regarding where we're going with this guy, and you had this giant change of plans, and you've hurt Kalisto as a result. Yeah. And we have seen time after time with guys that the audience, they see when someone is pushed and then yanked back, and you just give up, and you become Dolph Ziggler, where I don't care how much you try and push him at this point, the audience is going to be so hesitant to get behind him because they've seen it 1,000,000 times with him, where he gets 2 steps closer and then he's pulled 3 steps back.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
The piss and vinegar is out of us on that one title match. But hey, we were positive about the women's title match.
Yeah.
I'm just going to continue to call it
the IC title match, even the Rumble match.
There's a lot to look forward to at this Rumble,
I think so.
which I really hope is a turnaround. Yeah. The last 2 Royal Rumbles, I think, have been handled really badly, both with Daniel Bryan, where one year he shouldn't have been in the Rumble, and one year he should have been, and they got it wrong.
Yeah, it was.
Last year I thought was one of the worst put together Rumbles because I think everyone knew what to expect when you put Bryan into that match. He didn't need to be in that match, and when he was eliminated, that audience turned on the match, and I can't say that. Oh, poor WWE, because how could you not see that scenario happening? And it turned out worse than I thought because they turned on that match huge.
Yeah, and when you turn on the biggest name ever in the business, in all of entertainment, The Rock,
How do you feel this audience will take to Roman Reigns, who's coming in number 1? So you're presenting the story from the very first, from the opening bell. He's in the underdog position to have to go through an hour to retain his title. I don't expect a negative reaction to Roman, but Could I be wrong?
You know what? If there is a negative reaction to Roman Reigns at this point, I think it's because it's kind of like the John Cena effect. They're going to boo him just for the sake of booing him. Other than that, I don't see a negative reaction for Roman Reigns.
So, any predictions on surprise entrance?
Well,
I feel this year. Sorry to cut you off.
No, not at all.
I feel this year, with the title being on the line, you could have done a great job of just saying, we have heard from talent all over the world outside of the WWE who this is their opening to come to the Rumble and win. And you only need like 5 or 6 guys, but the idea that this has caught the attention of everyone in wrestling, and it's an added hook for the Rumble that who's going to show up. And Stephanie did mention that in the promo, that you might even see people that aren't even in the WWE, but I think you could have hit that really hard, that this is a huge opportunity for anybody to come win the title.
Yeah, exactly. Fielding phone calls from all over the world, from many different organizations, whatever you want. You don't even have to give the name. I mean,
no, you keep that a surprise, but just say, listen, we've got calls from every promotion.
But apparently all 4 members of the Social Outcasts will be in the Rumble.
Yeah, they will be.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if Tough Enough Josh will be in this Royal Rumble.
No, and he better not be live tweeting the Rumble, from what I understand either. So
he's got to
not a good call.
Stay off Twitter.
Yeah.
Some poor judgment this week.
I don't get this. Okay, this is totally off topic from the Royal Rumble, but do they?
He had no clue.
No, but do you have to give like social media classes now on how people should be on social media? I mean, like, oh man, how about common sense? Does it make common sense? You know, and I don't really rail on guys for tweets like this, but the guy's been in the WWE for, he hasn't even finished his coffee. It's still sitting on the table, like mine right here. And
not to mention, Jimmy, he's coming in with a $250,000 contract. If you don't think you walked in with more heat than the sun, and then you just painted a target on yourself with that tweet on Monday. I don't know what he was thinking doing that. And just, he has made himself the social outcast.
Thank goodness it's not the old school days, because there would be some locker room justice involved there. But I love the Stardust tweet about changing in the hallway. I know a few guys who had to go through that, so that's not pleasant.
Well, I mean, with the Royal Rumble this week, tons of people making the comparison to what happened to Daniel Puder, and I don't think that guy did anything close to what this guy did.
No, and you remember what happened to him when he entered the Rumble? And
I don't know how well that would fly today, Jimmy.
Well, it's funny because I was ringside for that as one of the officials, and just I was cringing. It
was tough to watch.
Yeah, it was tough to watch.
All right, that's going to wrap it up. That is our Royal Rumble preview. We'll be back next week. We'll go through the highs and lows of the Royal Rumble. I'm sure there will be both. And you can catch The Law Sunday night, 11 Eastern, right after the Royal Rumble. We'll have an extensive rundown on TSN 1050 Toronto, TSN 1410 Vancouver, and you can listen at liveaudiowrestling.com. And be sure to tweet this man at Jimmy Corderas on Twitter and let him know what you think of the Royal Rumble, because he's always agreeable on Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. Something just popped into my head, because with my Royal Rumble prediction and Vince McMahon coming out, hopefully he just comes out to the...
he can't power walk his way to a Royal Rumble ring.
No, I had a 2005 flashback there.
That would be a bad one.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. That's your viewing for the weekend. The 2005 Rumble. You get Daniel Puder and you get Vince.
Can I real quick here? Because I don't know how many people, obviously the story's been out since, but I don't know how many people actually watching that match realized that the tie at the end was not supposed to happen. That was
because it was so perfectly done that no one could fathom that was an accident, because it looked awesome.
You know what? You couldn't have planned it to look that good. I mean, it just worked out perfectly. Sometimes spontaneity works, man.
There's your Brock and Roman Reigns out. There's no way they can possibly replicate John Cena and Batista's elimination, because you were totally right. No one bought that was a mistake, because it was their feet hit the ground at the same time. Were you right there to see them land?
It's okay. Here. It's funny because
this is overtime.
We're running overtime, OT. That happened on the ramp side, the entranceway side, when they went over, both went over the top. What was supposed to happen was, as they went over the top, Batista hooks the top rope, John falls, Batista wins the Rumble. They got so tangled up that Dave couldn't grab that top rope. It was just they were clustered together, and they did. On the replay, obviously, you can see that they landed at virtually exactly the same time. But I was around the other side of the steps, so I didn't quite get the full view. And because Batista was scheduled to win the Rumble, of course, referee Jack Dolan, the Raw referee, who Batista was part of Raw, raises Dave's hand. Not even 10 seconds later, we hear on our earpieces, and they said, I guess they saw the replay in the back, and they said, one of the SmackDown refs go raise John Cena's hand. They landed at the same time.
Good thinking.
So, Charles was there. I was there. We were both the two SmackDown refs for the match, and we just dove in and started doing the back and forth, almost like a yay boo spot with the no, he won, no, he won, no, he won, no, he won. And the whole time while this is going on, we're hearing in our earpiece, they're asking the refs who are not at ringside to go find the respective GMs, Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long. Somebody go find those guys, because I guess they wanted them to come out to continue the discussion who won the match. Couldn't be found anywhere. So here comes Vince power walking to the ring, and you can see on his face he's fuming, because now we've heard that they've been looking for the two GMs. They're not there. Vince is hot. And he comes into the ring, and he goes to stand up, and he just
tears both quads.
And everybody went, you could see, it was a collective gasp in the ring. It was like, okay, what happened?
It was one of the most insane sequences in WWE history. One of the true thinking on the fly moments, that entire finish. And Batista wins, and that was one of the best builds for a WrestleMania main event that year, with Batista and Triple H going into WrestleMania 21. But a fascinating Royal Rumble on many levels in 2005. So there you go. That's Mr. Corderas dropping that knowledge. We'll be back next week, and thanks for checking out our Royal Rumble preview.